LinkedIn. This is Christine Kidder-Graves, your career coach, marketing career coach, helping you have work that works for you. And I'm here with a very special guest, Desmond Clark, a former Chicago Bear. And I've had the opportunity to hear Desmond speak at least twice, right, Desmond? I think so. And he's just an incredible speaker. So he talks about his experience in professional football, and so many of his lessons we can use in the corporate world. So yeah, that's what I love so much. So anyway, Desmond, how are you doing today? And thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you for having me on. I'm doing fairly well. No complaints. Health is good. Family is good. Business is good. So, yeah, I'm doing well.
That's great. Awesome. Wonderful. So yeah, the two times that I got to hear you speak was to a networking group that I belong to, the Elite Group, which is for leaders in accounting and finance and human resources. So, and it's for those leaders that are in transition. So, and doing a job search, looking for a new role can be very, very stressful. And you spoke, I mean, what you shared was so helpful. So like right now, during this great reshuffle that we all find ourselves in the middle of, what do you think, what are some of the key advice that you have for people right now who are either doing a job search or they just feel like stuck in their job and they're not really happy?
Well, it's great. You call it the reshuffle. I just had this conversation in a couple of different ways. I had it with a lady who was working at a company that was help sourcing some of my speaking opportunities, and she is wonderful, right? And anybody would be lucky to have her, but she's been out of work for a number of months now and can't find a job. And then I have my daughter who's 19, who is want to find just a part-time job or a full-time job right now until she re-enrolls into school next semester, because she took this last semester off after tearing her ACL. She can't find a job. But you hear about all these open jobs out here, right? As far as being higher up on the food chain or lower on the food chain. And I don't know why that is, but my advice to either party at either end of the spectrum is that the circumstances are always changing. But what can't change is you as a person. And you as a person, you will, if you stay the same and stay that same committed, dedicated, great character person that you are, you'll change your circumstances. And so your circumstances change you. And I know that sounds, that's easy to say when you're not in the middle of it and you're not the one that's struggling for a job. But then I ask, what other approach would you take than to, hey, I know I'm good. I know that I'm qualified. I know that I'll be an asset to any company that hires me. You just got to keep banging on the door the same way and say, hey, here I am. I'm the best person for the job. You should hire me because I can bring value to the table. And eventually, this is, like I say, easy to say. Eventually, you will land that position, but just don't grow tired and weary, because you're good enough to be out there. You're good enough to have the job that you want. So just keep pursuing it.
Yeah, you made me think, when you were talking, you made me think of a couple things. And the first thing is that we've got to focus on serving others, how we can help others, and really stay focused on that, because I firmly believe that everyone is here to help someone with their special gifts. We each, that's what your personal brand is. You have unique skills and talents that nobody else has. And that's how you're invaluable. And you have to stay rooted in that, and how you can use that to help other people, how you can be of service to others. And yeah, there's a lot of people, even though unemployment is at an all-time low. I think the current statistic, oh, my dogs are going a little crazy over here. Calm down. Cooper, come over here. This is definitely LinkedIn Live with some activity with you.
There you go. Hey, you get it live and in the mix.
But I heard the statistic yesterday. There's like 1.7 jobs for every person. So, I mean, unemployment. It's just
those are the type of things that I don't understand, Christine, I'm sorry, is we're saying we're in the great resignation, right?
Yeah.
So that means that people are not working. But then we're saying that unemployment is at its lowest. How can both of those things happen at the same time? So
Yeah.
I kind of struggle with that. Is this the great resignation, or is this a time where unemployment is at an all-time low? It has to be one or the other.
Yeah, I think it comes down to people in the pandemic. I think was a big wake-up call for everyone. Like we could be doing things better. And if you're in a role, if you're in work that doesn't excite you, that you're dreading going to every day, then you need to find something new. You need to find something that you're excited about, that's aligned with your purpose. And and I think that's what's caused many people to leave their jobs. Record numbers of people quit their jobs without having a job. And then employers have had a hard time finding people. And it's just like, it's almost like musical chairs, like finding the right chair to sit in for you. And it continues to be super tight for employers to find the right person for the right role. It's got to be a good match, because then if it's not a good match, if we're not using people's skills and talents, and if we're not engaging our teams, then people won't want to stay. They're not going to be excited. And employers have to do the proper work to get everyone going in the same direction too.
Right. And there's ways to do that. And I believe over the last couple of years, I think a lot of people have awakened themselves to what truly matters, right? And there's more awareness about really having peace and harmony within ourselves. And when you go to work, well, just in life in general, right? And I believe that all people, they want two things. They want a sense of belonging, and then they want a sense of significance. And I believe people have kind of took their head out of the sand and looked up and like, I don't feel anything about my job. I don't feel a significance. I don't feel a belonging. I don't feel a purpose about this. And that's what I want to feel. That's what I want to have every day. Like when you come home to your family, you have that sense of belonging. You have that sense of, hey, I matter here. And you spend most of your days at work, or most of your daytime hours at work. And you want to feel the same thing there. And I think that's what people are searching for. In leadership today, they have to find a way to provide that if they want to keep people there, keep them motivated, keep them happy, keep them going forward. Those two things are going to be very important from now on.
Yeah. Like when you were, in the NFL, like how did the coaches get everyone on the team united, because it's like, if you don't have everyone on the same page, it doesn't matter how many great players you have on the team. If they don't all come together, I mean, how did they do that?
Well, you have some teams that do it well. You have some teams that don't do it well, right? Just like you have some companies that do it well and some companies that don't do it well. It's a formula of really building trust right away amongst the team and the coaches, and there's a leadership ladder there where, hey, from GM all the way down, there has to be trust there. We all have to have some kind of input into the direction that we're going. Ultimately, the direction is coming from the top down. But the thing that I love the most about playing with the Chicago Bears and playing for Lovie Smith as a leader is that he gave us a voice on what it is that we were doing from day to day. We felt like we didn't have, or if we were beat up or something like that, and half the team was not in that physical, and just physically ready to go out and bang that day, we could send our captains up and they could have a conversation. Now, we didn't always get our way, but we always felt like Levy listened, and we could push back, and he'll push back, and it was fine because we had that trust that Levy was always looking out for our best interest. And then from there, we stayed committed at that point because we know that, hey, if he disagree with us and he make a decision, we know that he's making it in the best efforts to get us prepared because he lets us have input. And a lot of times our input was what he went with. And now since we built a trust, we have the input and the relationship built. Now we commit to whatever decisions are made. And now, since all of that is there, having that self-motivation and having that team accountability, like the coaches didn't come in the locker room at all. We held each other accountable because we know what we all had committed to, right? We know what we put on the board and said, hey, this is what we're going to do as a team because we all had a voice in that. And then we all committed to it. And now since we all committed to it together, we all hold each other accountable. And I believe that's why we got the results that we got when I played with Levy. And one of those things is going to the Super Bowl and in another NFC Championship game because of that formula right there.
Yeah. You made me think of transparency is so important, for leaders to have a transparent style. Because when I've worked for transparent leaders, I so appreciate it. They're vulnerable, they're human. It's like, and it helps me to feel more at ease and more comfortable. And I'm more willing to run through a wall for that person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to do whatever it takes because they're upfront with me and they're transparent,
Right.
And so that's important.
I give you a real quick story. How I had built trust with Levy and how I knew that he trusted me. Me and my wife, we were going through some troubles at the time, and a situation came up with the kids, and I was very, very upset. And it was like 15 minutes before practice, and I went up to Levy's office, and it really didn't matter what Levy said. I would have got fired that day if he told me that I couldn't go. I was like, Levy, I got to go home. I got to take care of a family situation. I'll be back if I can. And Levy said, hey, just take a breath. He's like, is everything okay? I was like, it will be, but I got to go and take care of it. He's like, before you leave out of this door, I want you to take a couple breaths. I want you to calm down. And when you leave out, just make sure you take care of your family. If you can get back here today, that's fine. If you can't get back here today, that's fine too. We'll see you tomorrow. And that right there just showed me that the dude cares. And he trusted me. And I already had the trust in him. And that day, man, it's nothing that I wouldn't do for my coach to try to help get him that victory because we had built that type of relationship. He didn't even ask what the problem was.
Mm-hmm.
He just seen that it was a problem, and he seen it on my face that it was something that was bothering me, and he just wanted to make sure that me and my family was all right. And then when you get back here, come back, and we'll see you then.
Mm-hmm. That's leadership in action, and that's like really having your back for you too.
Mm-hmm.
Being there for you and like just being really supportive. So that's great. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Hey, I would love it for you to speak to, I still remember, I think you touched upon this both times I heard you speak, and I would love for you to talk about it here as well. When you were talking about, I think when you were on the Denver Broncos, right? It was Shannon Sharp who was that whole situation, because you had done really well. And it's like, we just can't get comfortable, I mean, we can't,
Mm-hmm.
talk through that.
Yeah, coming out of college, set all these records and all ACC this and that and the other. And then I get drafted to the Denver Broncos, and I get drafted as a tight end to the Denver Broncos. I've never played the tight end position before, and not only were they the Denver Broncos, they were the two-time champion Denver Broncos, and they had a Hall of Fame tight end, a future Hall of Fame tight end, Shannon Sharp, and they had two other really, really good tight ends, both who made Pro Bowls in their career, Dwayne Caldwell and Byron Chamberlain. And getting there, I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to make this team. There's no way. They just won 2 Super Bowls, and these are the 3 guys who helped them get there. Very instrumental roles on the team. And my mindset was, I'm not going to make it in the NFL. I'm definitely not going to make it on this team. But at a point, that mindset flipped, right? Because I had a scout that came over, and he said, hey, forget about comparing yourself to them because you're not as good as them. And a lot of times when we go into situations, we start looking at other people, we start looking at their stats, we start looking at their accomplishments, and then we start to set our bar according to their bars, whether it's lower or higher. But what he told me is ask yourself how good you want to be. Then he said, because everybody wants to be good, right? He said, now go back and say, how good am I? And he said, every day I want you to come out to practice and improve on one single thing every day until you close that gap from how good you want to be to how good you are. And I took that later on to mean you have to just bring your best self to the table every day. And when you bring your best self to the table every single day, you're putting yourself in the best position to win every single day, because who can ask more of you? You can ask more of yourself than to bring your best self every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember you saying too, how, you would just constantly seek out feedback and,
Yeah.
How can I be better today? What do you think? How can
Mm-hmm.
I, and we have to own it. We have to, especially if we're in a new role and like starting a new job, as many people have been, in this year, again, with the great reshuffle, it's like really focused on, again, your customer, who you're serving and what do they need, what, and what are you struggling with now? How can I help you? Going to your boss, what's your biggest challenge, and give me your feedback, because feedback is a gift. It may not always be the easiest thing to hear sometimes, but at the end of the day, we want to be better than yesterday,
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, getting that feedback is critical, and asking for it is very critical also. One of the things when I was doing more financial advising, as a financial advisor, still a financial advisor, people, hey, I want to make more money, and I say, hey, this is the way that you make more money. You got to do a few things. First, you got to understand what you're getting evaluated and paid for, evaluated on and paid for. And a lot of people don't even know that. And a lot of the supervisors or the managers or directors, they don't even understand. So you have to ask this question to whoever your supervisor is. All right, if there are 3 to 5 things that I'm being evaluated on that's going to determine my success here, what are those 3 to 5 things? And make them answer those 3 to 5 things. And then the next thing is, okay, so if I score well in those 3 to 5 things, then what happens at that point? Do I get a raise? Do I get a promotion? Like what can I expect when I score all A's in these categories? And now you know where your career, your job is taking you to, because you understand what you're getting, what your job description really is, what you're getting evaluated on, what you're getting paid for, and if you do well, what can I expect moving forward? And I've had a couple handfuls of people come back and say, you know what, that conversation actually worked, and I got a promotion or I got a pay raise. So just understanding what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish is huge. And you can only do that when you and the other person that you're working with or working for you guys are on the same page and understanding the job the same way.
Yeah, the 3 to 5 key performance indicators or KPIs that you're going to be held to. Just keep it simple, because sometimes I think we get so bogged down by the details, and just to break it down to like what the 3 to 5 key things are. I mean, with your performance review, what are you going to be measured on? And yeah, just making sure you're clear on that from the very beginning, and also constantly checking in about that too, because it could change. I mean, the business world is always changing, and jobs are constantly evolving and changing. So always knowing, okay, what is it that I need to do now? Because every position that exists, the reason why it exists is there had to be a financial justification for it. There has to be, what is this position responsible for? Why do we need this position? What is this person accountable for? And if you don't have the clarity on what you're being measured on, how can you do a good job?
Right. How do you know if you're doing a good job? You don't.
You don't.
You're just kind of guessing.
Yeah. There's a saying, a business author, I can't remember now. I want to say Tom Peters. We manage what we can measure, something along those lines. I mean, you can't. How can you manage something without being able to measure it? So.
Yeah. Right. No, that's very true. I like saying you got to have a scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, I'm an athlete, right? You got to have a scoreboard. If you can't keep score some type of way, how do you know if you're winning or losing? Yeah. And that's just, I know I'm programmed that way, but I think it's very logical when it comes to life in general and in the business world. I just had this conversation today with my daughters, like, hey, there has to be something that is, what's your fourth quarter? What are you trying to accomplish? When are you trying to accomplish it? Now, you got to start making progress towards the fourth quarter and make sure that, hey, if I got to score 95 points, let's make sure that we're scoring 95 points. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. And throughout the first, second, third, going into the fourth quarter, you got to continue to make progress to that point. And that's what keeps you motivated. That's what keeps you going. And that's what keeps you focused, just knowing that you're making progress, right? I know where I got to get to. And it's like driving down a back road where there's no lights, like you're in the woods somewhere. And you know that 5 miles down the road is the city, is the town area. But you got to get down to those 5 miles of the road. But while you're driving, the headlights only shows you like 200 feet in front of you, right?
Yes.
So as you keep driving and driving and driving, the headlights keep showing you the next progression, the next corner, the next stop sign. And that's what life is like. And that's what, making that progress is like. And knowing that 5 miles down the road, I get to stop and have this coffee break because that's my destination. That's my check-in point.
Yes. Yeah. So, Desmond, can you speak to, because I know you're really focused now on doing public speaking. Like, can you talk about that? Like, are there specific groups that you're targeting, and like, when are you available to do that? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Pretty much available when you call me. But no, so with what I speak about two really different broad topics. And those topics, they're summed up in leadership and also self-development. And when it comes to self-development, I like to title that one, Success Demands Persevering Through Adversity. And when I talk about self-development, that's what it's all about, because we all come up against these obstacles that we have to overcome to get better, to get to where we're going. Mm-hmm. Leadership, we talk about some of that formula that I just gave to you, my principles of winning, and how do you establish real, thoughtful leadership that can produce a cohesive team, culture, and great clarity, so the teams can perform at a peak level all the time. So between those two big broad topics, I speak to a lot of companies, big and small. Last night I just spoke to WealthSpire. They just had their annual conference down in Fort Lauderdale, and they are a financial institute. I'm speaking to an insurance association coming up, but association, businesses, some schools, but usually in the professional corporate America arena is where I do most of my, well, just about 90% of my speaking and my leadership training.
That's great. That's awesome. So
yeah, thank you, and thank you for allowing me to get that in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then we'll be wrapping up in the next couple minutes, but earlier we were talking about feedback and always trying to be better. Like for you, like what helps you to be better than yesterday? What helps you to be invaluable? Like what's like a habit? Like maybe you have a daily habit that really helps you with that. Like if you could share just to help our audience to be better than yesterday as well and to be invaluable.
Yeah, it first starts with understanding what you're trying to accomplish, right? Because if you're going to get better, what are you trying to get better for? That's the first question. And then, or the first thing you have to think about. And the second thing is this: as you're trying to get to that point, you're taking those steps along the way, and you have to take time to reflect, especially when you get your butt kicked, like I did last week. You have to take time to reflect and say, okay, I did it this way, but how can I do better? Because we get into this thing where we're going, and we never stop and let the lesson catch up to us, right? We in life, we take the test first, and then we learn the lesson second. And unless we stop and pause and reflect and let the lesson catch up to us, we're going to miss out on so much information. I think those are the two things that keep me getting better, knowing exactly where I'm trying to go. And then as I'm going through the daily tasks and different things so I can get there, reflecting and letting those lessons catch up to me so I can be better the next time I have to enter into a situation.
That is so excellent, Desmond. Thank you for sharing that because yeah, we get so caught up in the doing, the action. And it's like, I think we feel that we have to do all this stuff in order to be something. And as my coach likes to say, no, it's really you be who you want to be, and then you take action from there. You do, and then you can get the results that you want. So it's be, do, have instead of do, be, have.
You do have that like a ring to it. And here's the other thing: we have to really start asking ourselves tougher questions, and really, tougher questions, simpler answers. And if we can ask ourselves the tough questions and distill those answers down to the simplest form, then we can make progress. Because the simplicity is really, for me, the new sophistication. If I can bring something to you in a simple, pure way that you can understand it, now you can go and execute it, and now you can go and implement it, and take that information and become better with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And and you reminded me of my coaching program, my one-on-one coaching program that I do with my clients, because typically when I'm working with them, I'm either helping them with a job search to have a focused job search so they're not spinning their wheels, but reflection is a key part of it, and then a plan, and then connecting with people. But that reflection piece is so important because you have to reflect on the lessons learned. And it's like you can't just be sending out resumes just randomly and just like hoping and praying, that you get some activity. You need to think about what your objective is, what you're shooting for, and you need to have crystal clear clarity on that. I mean, it just has to be, it can't be fuzzy. Otherwise you're not going to reach your objective.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, well, this was great. It was so nice to talk with you on this Wednesday afternoon. And Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. And then, if there's what I can do is I can put it in the comments to this video, then maybe just your website, so that way people can connect with you if they want to follow up with you directly. So,
Absolutely. Right here on LinkedIn is the best place.
yes. So, all right. Well, thanks again, Desmond. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us here, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Thank you.